Today on the podcast, I got to talk to Sandy. She just got back from 4 months in Southeast Asia with her 3 kids. Now, her 3 kids are little, 4, 2, and 8 months old. And so they did this trip on her maternity leave. It was a super fun chat to hear about Vietnam, the Philippines, Cambodia, Thailand, and how they traveled between them, how they financially made this work, from how they saved to how expensive these countries were. And then we dove deep into sleep. I wanted to know about how they managed bedtime and nap time, because I know that that is a big pain point and really overwhelming for when we are thinking about doing trips like this. And so I wanted to dive into that. So she shares all the details about that. She shared which countries were her favorite, which were the most financially friendly, and what her kids liked. So this is a really fun episode if you're considering doing a long trip with your kids, or you want to go backpacking with them, or you want to go to Asia with them, or you have young kids that you want to travel with. Those are all the things that we covered in this podcast.
Welcome to Let's Go Outside, a podcast bringing moms together to chat about the raw, unfiltered reality of doing the exploring we love after having kids. No matter your comfort level of adventuring with the little ones, this is a space to have honest conversations about the real struggles of getting out the door with the kiddos. I'm Danica, a mama living in a small mountain town who's totally obsessed with healthy food and taking my kids outside every single day. I professionally guided backpacking trips in the Canadian Rockies, and I'm certified as a Leave No Trace instructor. On the show, you'll hear real experiences from other moms, plus tips on gear, trail snacks, and the best practices in the wilderness. Whether it's hiking, camping, backpacking, skiing, or traveling the world you want to do more of, this is your place to learn, find encouragement, and strip away any comparison. Come embrace both motherhood and the outdoors. Stick around. This is your place. Welcome to the Outdoor Mom Club.
Welcome to the Let's Go Outside podcast. I'm super excited to have Sandy Grove with us on the show today. She is a listener and she's also an adventurer. I'm super excited to hear about her trip. She just got back from Southeast Asia for the last 4 months with her 3 little kids. So we're going to dive straight into it. So welcome here, Sandy.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here because I've listened to your podcast many times. So thanks for having me.
Tell us about yourself. Give us the inside scoop. Maybe give us a little summary of your trip.
Okay, so my name's Sandy. I'm a mom of 3. I have a 4, 2, and a 1-year-old, and we live in the Okanagan in BC. And we just got back from our 4-month trip in Southeast Asia. So we traveled to 4 different countries, and it was a really big adventure. And it just reignited our, thirst for travel and adventure with our kids and bringing them along.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And what memories do you have as a child in exploring and traveling? Was there a lot of that when you were growing up?
Well, I grew up in Switzerland, so I'm Swiss Canadian, and I moved to Canada when I was 9 years old. But in Switzerland, we lived right in the Alps, in the mountains. So I grew up being outside a lot, hiking, skiing since I'm 3, and just being outside all the time. And I feel like I really had that like free range childhood, which I dream about for my children and kind of try to give them. We were just always outside playing in the neighborhood with other kids. And I remember my mom would whistle for us to come in for dinner, and then after dinner we'd go right back outside till basically the street lights came on. So we went on big adventures and hikes and hut to hut hiking, and then we also were just at home playing in our backyard and outside.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Okay. And then did you travel in your young adult years as well?
Yes. So after high school I took a year off and I traveled to Fiji in Australia. So when you're 18. And that, I think, really sparked like my travel bug. And since then, I've traveled quite a lot, and I've done exchange semesters through university in New Zealand and India, and just, always would kind of dream about the next trip.
And have you always traveled with your kids when they were little, or was this one of the bigger ones?
This was definitely our biggest trip, but we have traveled with our kids before. We've gone to Switzerland several times with our kids, and we did actually last summer with all three of them. But we also went to Belize for 2.5 weeks with two of our kids. But this was really like a big jump to going for 4 months. And really, we decided to go for that long because I'm on maternity leave, which is ending now. And we just thought if we're going to travel that far, we want to go for, an extended time because we knew it would be a big adjustment and everything. And just if you're already over there, we wanted to see kind of as much as we could. Yeah.
Mm, okay. And so was this something that you guys worked towards for a long time that you saved financially for, or how did you make it work?
Yeah, so it's a good question. And the financial one is always a question that I think people have. We basically had been putting away money for at least 2 years towards something. And we didn't quite know what it was, whether it would be a big trip or traveling or a down payment towards a down payment for a bigger house or something else, right? But we've essentially we saved for a couple years, and once we knew maybe a year before, and I mean, I hadn't even had my third baby yet, we decided we want to go travel. We didn't quite know for how long, but we just kept putting money aside every month. And yeah, financially, should I talk about some of the ways we kind of made it work financially?
Yeah. And I mean, and if you want to, as detailed as you want to go
Mhm.
about finances, I think people would be interested if like you want to share how much you saved beforehand, go for it.
Yeah. I actually haven't totaled up all the numbers of how much we spent, but we did save, around $500 to $1,000 a month for the last year of being home. And how we did that was my husband's self-employed in construction. He basically worked a lot of hours. He worked many weekends, and so with that, I always am like, there was a sacrifice there of me solo parenting with two while pregnant, solo parenting
Hmm.
with three. That wasn't always easy. And it was such a hard balance to find because we're like, we want to go on this big trip so that we can spend time together and take a break from the like 9 to 5 grind. But for us, one way to get there is to just earn more money and basically be trading, hours for money because that's our income. We did also rent out our home while we were away, and that helped really cover like the mortgage and utilities. So we rented it out and had it on home exchange. We've had it on home exchange several times, actually, even last summer when we went to Switzerland. And then I think overall, just our lifestyle, we live pretty frugally. I mean, we don't splurge on too many things. We don't have brand new trucks and cars, but we just try to we cook our meals at home. We do mostly free things with being outside and just not having salon appointments every week and those kind of things. Like there's a lot of ways we don't have cable, we don't have all the subscriptions.
Two-part question. Did you
Uh-huh.
choose to go to Asia because it was going to fit into the budget you had? Curious about that.
Yeah.
And secondly, can you give us maybe just like a little overview? I know you were sharing numbers even though you don't have the details yet,
Yeah.
but the cost roughly for even 1 month or whatever you have the breakdown or for
Yeah,
would
so
be
we
interesting.
had we had kind of budgeted $5,000 a month, Canadian dollars a month per country. We kind of had planned 1 month per country, and
Okay.
that ended up being very accurate. I would say I mean, each country was different, and I do have all those breakdowns. I would say we spent around between 160 to 180 a day of Canadian
Okay.
dollars. So that's kind of for your food, accommodation, activities, and maybe some other costs like laundry and souvenirs or that kind of thing. What else? Yeah, I mean flights, we had great flight deals. We flew from Vancouver to Manila. So we did actually drive down to Vancouver and stay at my brother's in Vancouver before flying out. So we did even in those ways like try to save money, and definitely to your first part of the question, we went to Southeast Asia because we knew it would be quite affordable for traveling and also safe and pretty, I think, easy to get around and navigate. Like it's a well-traveled place, right? For backpackers. Yeah.
Okay. I've been thinking about Southeast Asia and how it is one of the more affordable places for traveling these days. I
Yeah.
do feel like Central America has felt like it has gotten a lot more expensive in the last couple of years. I
Mhm.
think it was a lot cheaper to travel there. Um, but I also feel a bit nervous about the food of Southeast Asia, and maybe it's just because I have a soy allergy and a peanut allergy,
Yeah.
but it's good. I love seeing, um, you guys and the Restless Crusade Shannon there in Southeast Asia because it does seem affordable and,
Yeah.
like, it's giving me courage to go there with kids, but I'm not quite there yet.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, it is very affordable. It's just, I guess, for us over here in North America, like it's a bigger trip too, like to fly down there. And I feel like for some people then Central America is closer, you know, when we flew to Belize, we flew to Calgary and then straight down. I mean, pretty pretty simple and smooth travel day, not
Yeah.
as long and far as going to Southeast Asia.
How did you travel between the countries when you were
In
in Asia?
Southeast Asia, mainly by buses. We did in the Philippines, that first month in the Philippines, I had kind of planned out because I had heard also from Shannon that you need to book your flights ahead of time because there's
Okay.
so many islands. So you are going to be flying and those flights will add up if you don't book them earlier. So I had kind of planned our route in the Philippines. But then once we flew to Bangkok, we had nothing planned and we did end up flying up to Chiang Mai. And that was actually an expensive flight because we booked it only like a week ahead. So we ended up spending
Okay.
like $400 and it was just like, ouch. But we weren't quite ready to do the overnight train up to Chiang Mai after, you know, traveling to Bangkok. And those days in Bangkok, being in a big city were quite exhausting for all of us. So we were just like, let's just get up there and kind of regroup a little bit. And then we did take the night train back from up north in Thailand down to Bangkok. And then, so we had a few flights like between countries, but we also took a lot of buses. We took a bus from Cambodia across to Vietnam. And all of those things are so easy to navigate. And the buses are actually very nice. So yeah, that worked pretty well.
Yeah, okay, good. The flights just add up so much when
Mhm.
you have 3 kids too, I feel
Mhm.
like. I mean, your youngest surely would have been free, but if it was $400, was it $400 a person?
No, together.
Together,
Yeah,
yeah. Still,
together.
that's, like, way more than a bus in Southeast Asia, I
Oh,
feel
I think
like,
for
and
the
the buses are
train,
fancy.
yeah, for the train back down, because we are like, let's just give it a try. We can't spend another $400 or $500 to fly back down. Um,
Mhm,
and there was some conflict happening or is happening between Cambodia and Thailand border. So we actually
okay,
ended up not being able to cross by bus to Cambodia. So we had to fly to Siem Reap into Cambodia as well. So I mean those things just yeah, those flights add up and they're not as
mhm,
cheap as, you know, maybe they used to be or it's funny because my husband, he traveled to Southeast Asia and all those countries when he was like 20 or 21. And obviously, a completely different trip. But he was just like, the flights are so cheap over there and all of this stuff. But of course, that has changed. I mean, that was, you
mhm,
know, 13 years ago. So you have to budget for those flights to either really figure out and book those ahead of time. And you don't have to have everything in between figured out. But like, this is the day we need to be back in Bangkok to fly there because that flight is booked. So yeah, it's a give and take about having the freedom to just choose and like as you go and not book, you know, weeks in advance, but then you also might end up paying quite a bit more. And if you're
mhm,
on a budget or a tight budget, you just don't want to end up having to spend so much on accommodation because you waited till the last minute or
mhm.
flights. Yeah.
Wow, are you feeling like you're in decision fatigue right now after a long trip like this? Because I felt like that after coming home from Italy last year, where we were there for, like, 3 months,
Yeah.
and there was so much decision fatigue with, like, accommodations and looking at rental cars. I don't know if you feel that way. How are you feeling about that?
It's funny because while over there, I definitely got burnt out of doing that. I mean, again, the
Mhm,
first month was good, but once like the rubber hit the pavement and we were like, what are we doing next week? Or where are we going, in 3 weeks? And having to always read all of these hotel reviews only to show up and maybe not, it's not as it was, as it said. And just that is such a mental load that we totally underestimated about traveling.
Mhm.
And also having kids, like you don't have much time to sit down and do that because either you're on the go and also the kids are always around, right? And so you would be doing this in the evenings instead of maybe having a minute for yourself or together, with your partner. So yes, I definitely got burnt out and had to, at some point I was just like, just book it, like you find it, because I
Mhm.
do a lot of I do a lot of it. But again, just like the mental load at home, it can just get too much. So we definitely had our moments of needing to just regroup and like book something. Okay, we're going to stay here for 5 nights and,
Mhm.
book a few things like that, which was great for the kids as well and all of us to just have a bit more downtime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I
Yeah.
can see that just in the trip that the style is
Mhm.
similar to how we have been traveling lately. And
Mhm.
I've just been feeling a little bit more stretched that way. Like it's a longer
Yeah.
trip and we're making lots of stops. We want to see a lot of things, but it's not, it's so different with kids now
Yeah.
and being like, okay, we can't just research while we're driving or,
No.
just sit at a
No.
cafe and figure this stuff out. And so and it's, and you it's nice to have the flexibility and not have
Mhm.
it all locked in and planned beforehand
Mhm.
because of the kids, but you kinda do need a bit of that, like well, you need the flexibility, but also not to be making the decisions constantly.
Yeah. Yeah, because otherwise you spend so much time doing that instead of spending time with your kids and being
Mhm.
present, right? Like, so that's such a balance to navigate while you're traveling this kind of style of traveling and backpacking. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Which is the total point where you're there is to be present with your kids.
Exactly. Yeah. And together as a family and not me saying, "Oh, I need to, spend an hour or 2 hours planning our next leg of the trip." Yeah. Although,
Yes.
sometimes while our baby was napping, I had to basically sit in the hotel room anyways. So then
Mhm.
I would be doing that, and maybe Florian took the kids to a playground at a park or something, depending on where we were.
Yeah. So while you were doing that, like, looking into stuff, off the top of your head, is there any apps or, websites that you really liked to use?
We basically booked all our accommodations through Agoda because we just found in Southeast Asia they have the best like cancellation policies and costs too.
Okay.
So for hotels, we booked through Agoda. We used Airbnb a few times because if we stayed in a place for a week, we always made sure to book an Airbnb with 2 bedrooms because it would give us a good reset, a bit better sleep situation. And also when you book for 7 nights at an Airbnb, you usually get the 10% discount. So we were like, if we're gonna book an Airbnb, it'll be one of our places where we're there for 7 nights. And then we used One to Go Asia, which is an app for all your like ferries and buses and those kind of tickets for your transportation. Um,
Okay, good. Yeah, I feel like that's a really good tip. We should say out loud again for anyone
mhm.
listening is Airbnb gives you discounts on 7-day bookings and on month-long
Yes,
bookings for
yeah.
most places.
Hmm.
And it can be a different percentage depending on the host. So
Yes.
if you look around a little bit,
Yeah.
you can get like a good discount or deal. That's how some
Yeah.
people can do it. I want to know, Sandy, your favorite top pieces of gear that you were so happy that you guys had.
Okay. Well, our biggest thing was bringing our backpack carrier, our Osprey Poco Plus we have, and we've used that mainly at home for backpacking and backcountry trips. But this piece of, gear got us basically through this trip because our baby and sometimes even our 2-year-old, they were in it, every day, whether it was walking through the cities or hiking and on those kind of adventures or just do temples. Everywhere we used our backpack carrier. So we are so glad we brought that. And then another one, which is kind of a tip, is that we brought our our double camping mattress. because of staying in places, sometimes hotel rooms, if the beds weren't big enough, or I would often be with my baby in one bed, and then Florian would be with one of our kids in the other bed. One of our kids would sleep on the mattress. So we just we had musical beds happening the whole
Mhm.
trip, but that extra place where one of our kids could sleep really, really helped out when you're traveling as a family of 5 and staying in hotel rooms that are usually just 2 double beds, or sometimes it was a double and a single. So then, it got a little bit tight, and our kids didn't mind sleeping on the mattress either. So they would always take turns. Yeah. Yeah,
That's so good.
I
And
would say.
did you use towels as blankets sometimes? I feel like sometimes we have definitely done that.
Yes, and I don't know, this might be something you wanna cut out, but we actually probably not great to teach our kids, but, I don't know if they realize, we took one of those little airplane blankets
Oh, yeah.
on
Yep.
our Cathay Pacific flight, and we traveled around all of Southeast Asia for that for 4 months, and then actually we took it back on the plane ride home and just left it
Yes.
on the
My goodness.
and of course we washed it numerous times, but that little blanket, got us through, a lot of nights, or just, yeah, so we did stuff like that,
100% on that. Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
I'm
Left it on the
glad
plane
I'm not
after it's
the
been like,
only one. It's
yeah,
been
it's like this
everywhere.
blanket has been to so many places.
Yeah, and I figure, you know what? We're paying thousands of dollars, and I think it's okay to bring a
Yeah.
blanket. Yes.
That's so funny.
So we did do
Yes.
stuff like that because we are budget travelers, not staying in fancy
Exactly.
resorts. Yeah.
Also, like, when you're bringing carry-on or, like, small bags, you don't have room to just pack another blanket or something like that, and so that's, like, another way to
Yeah.
not make your luggage so much bigger.
Yes, because actually for when we went to Switzerland, we had different kind of luggage on that trip, and we brought a little, like, the kids' blankets, the crib blankets, and so we brought one of those because we knew we could use that while we were in Switzerland, and we had different luggage, and we weren't moving around, like, we weren't carrying everything on our back for 4 months, so we did bring stuff like that on a different type of trip. But for this trip, it was, like, very minimal. Yeah. Yeah, things
Yeah.
that we packed along, especially comfort items like that too. That became a comfort item.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question about, so you say you have the Osprey backpack
Mhm.
carrier.
Mhm.
You have a 2-year-old and a baby.
Mhm.
Did you also have a second carrier?
Yes, we actually brought 3 carriers. We
Okay.
brought the Osprey, which we used every day, but we also used our Ergo Baby, like our mesh Ergo Baby soft carrier, probably daily too, because I remember before saying to Florian, like, we need something on the plane, we need something on, buses, taxis, ferries, and you can't
Mhm.
sit with a backpack carrier on the plane. And
Mhm.
our baby was, how old was he? 8 months when we left. And so he was still, yeah, he had to be on us on the plane to sleep. And I'm so glad that we brought that Ergo Baby carrier because he just would often sleep in that on us. And then when we did go on bigger hikes and things, sometimes we had to carry our 2-year-old in the Osprey. And then so my husband would have him in the backpack carrier, and then I would have our baby in the Ergo. And then the third carrier we brought was a Trail Magic,
Okay.
which is just the kind of clip-on carrier that helped with some of our hikes.
Yes, the child magic is awesome. I feel like it's always the question when they're this age, do you bring a stroller? And I don't know if
Mm,
you ever considered it at all, or if you more
mm.
were just like, we're backpacking.
We honestly didn't consider it because we
Okay.
knew we were backpacking. We knew that we need to bring luggage that we can carry, plus carry 2 out of 3 of our kids. So we had essentially tried it out, like, who can carry what, and a stroller just wouldn't have, even a light one, we just didn't wanna deal with the hassle, and we also knew that, you don't know, well, we didn't know what the roads and the sidewalks and everything is like, but sometimes strollers just become way more of a hassle than they're worth. It did
Mhm.
mean that we had to constantly be carrying them around in the heat and, we're drenched in sweat every day we were
Mhm.
there, but
Wow.
again, we were backpacking,
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of roughing it, but yeah, yeah.
I think Though what I'm hearing, though, is Florian had been there before. He kind of knew the heat. He kind of knew the
Yeah,
experience. And it sounds like you guys also don't mind carrying your kids, and
yeah,
so it was a system that worked well for you. I know some people just, like, really, I think, don't like carrying the kids. Like, I think my husband would prefer not to. I
yeah,
don't mind carrying the kids at
yeah,
all. But, yeah, you have to find the system that you like. But,
yeah.
yeah.
We knew we could physically do it as well, and we just yeah, we figured we had, so I'll just say quickly what we use as luggage because I
Mhm.
had numerous messages about that and like what to
Okay.
bring. So we had a big like North Face duffel bag that you can wear as a backpack. And that was always pretty heavy. So Florian would wear that. And then I had my backpacking like 60-liter backpack that I could wear. And so we just decided that we could wear the backpack carrier and I could also have the baby on the front and Florian could still carry those other two bags. And so we just figured out that we could carry both of the little kids, both our 2-year-old and our baby, plus all our gear because it didn't happen often, but sometimes we did have to walk, 200-300 meters or, a kilometer to get to the ferry terminal or something. And so we had to make sure we could carry everything. Our 4-year-old just had to walk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you had one big North Face bag,
Mhm. Duffel
one,
bag, backpack, like a backpacking pack,
yeah, like a 60-liter
and then our
backpack,
Osprey.
and then the Osprey.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because
cool.
I could wear the
That's super cool.
Osprey and my husband could carry the other 2 bags, and I could still
Okay.
have a baby on the front in the ergo, like double
So
up.
you were, like, rocking it with 2 babies,
Sometimes,
probably.
yeah, but not
Yeah.
for very far distances because we did
Yeah.
get, a grab, get a taxi most
Mhm.
of the time, especially with all our bags. Like if we got at the airport, we're not walking anywhere. We're taking the taxi to the hotel, dropping all our
Mhm.
stuff, and then it was totally manageable to carry the kids. Yeah.
Totally. Yep. I know you have to, like, think that through
Yeah.
beforehand. Do you have any regrets with that, or are you happy with that system? Was there anything that you would have changed?
No, I mean, at this point, like you still need those carriers, especially if you were going to go on hikes and want to do those kind of things. And I mean, down the road, it would be great to travel with just carry on. And
Mhm.
I see people do that. I don't think quite with this many like 3 kids and at this age. I think once they're a bit older and can carry more in their backpacks because our 2 and 4-year-old both had things in their little backpack, but that
Yeah.
was more just like for them to be, a part of carrying their stuffy, but didn't help
Uh-huh.
us out much, so at this point, I think we were glad we brought those items.
Yep. Yep. And I definitely lean towards just throw it all in one big duffel.
Mhm.
But my husband is more like, let's do carry on. We all just take 2 little bags. And
Mm.
that's a bit painful for me, but it has
Yeah.
worked. We have made that work, and saved a lot of money doing that. So
Did you
yeah.
go to
Eh,
Belize with just carry-on then?
yeah, we
Okay.
did.
Yeah, that's
Um,
impressive.
it was, yeah, it was honestly, we were like, we kind of left it open-handed and we're like, let's see if we can pack all the essentials in
Yeah,
just one carry-on per person. And it all fit. And we
yeah,
were like, okay, let's do this. And I would say though, like, that was for carry-on bags, and then we got one diaper bag for the baby.
right.
And so, but our kids couldn't carry any of those bags.
Yeah,
Like, they were all heavy.
yeah,
And so we did have, like, 2 of our kids are able to walk and
yeah,
capable to do the airport or the shuttle thing,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then we would have the 4 bags and carry 1 baby.
yeah. It's a toss-up because we've traveled with carry-ons that were stuffed to the brim, and then it's, like, on the flight, it's just, like, you can't even get
Right.
to stuff, and it's, like, more frustrating that way too, but, of course, you can save a lot of money by just traveling with carry-on, so I think down the
Mhm.
road, we'll definitely try that or depending on the trip too.
And I think it's good to consider, like, baggage fees within the trip after that,
Mm,
because when we did it in Europe last year, there was, like, smaller planes where we would have to pay for
yeah,
something or have to pay
it's
for,
extra, yeah.
right? And so it did add up more just because we ended up doing more flights.
Mhm.
But if you were to do, yeah, if you were gonna be able to just stay in one place or whatever, it might be cheaper.
Yes, exactly.
I get asked quite a bit about the gear that we use while on international trips, especially about our lightweight playpen that we use. We'll bring that into the rock climbing crag or hike it into a beach and really use it for daytime naps anywhere. And so I put together a travel gear list, and I'm really hoping that this doesn't just cover like basic things that you would find on any travel list, but it's unique to the fact that these are specific things that might not be deemed as travel. And they are things that we have used over the last 5 years of traveling with our kids. So I've also included my kids' favorite activities for the plane and for road tripping as well. We have been really enjoying house sitting lately, and so I also put all the details in there. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, it is all linked in the show notes, so you'll find the link there. If you are into making healthy homemade snacks, I wanted to let you know that I have a huge library of homemade muffin recipes. They're all healthy. My goal is to make them nutrient dense with things like fruit, high in protein, whole wheat flour, low in sugar, no dairy. I mean, whatever you're looking for, it's there. The goal is that it won't break the bank and that you can actually find these ingredients, most being in your house. So go to besidethemountain.com/muffins and you'll find all of my recipes. My favorites are the gingerbread pumpkin muffin, the whole wheat apple muffins with banana, and the blender orange muffins. You're gonna love them.
Yes. Okay. I'd love to dive into sleep with you because I feel like this is a big pain point for a lot of families, or just like a big hurdle, a mental hurdle that we're all just like, how are we going to get through the sleep? And it constantly changing, especially like a trip like this. I feel like you must have some insight or just some like strong mental game to get through, new places all the time, new that you're sleeping in.
Yeah.
And so if you have some words of wisdom, I'd love to jump into where you're at with that or how that went for
Yeah.
you.
Well, I'll be, brutally honest here. The first bit, and I was nervous about the sleep because my kids are great sleepers at home, but they have they have a lot of structure and they have their bedroom and, they're in the same place and everything. So the first couple weeks were rough. First of all, we had to get over jet lag in Manila, and we were all in one room. And actually that was a mistake on my part. The bed was a king size bed, but it was only one bed. So already we're starting out with
Yeah.
like the kids sleeping on the mattress, us sleeping with the baby in the bed, and just basically being crammed into this one small hotel room. Once we got over jet lag, it was mainly just figuring out how we would all get to bed, how we would basically all get to bed and get them asleep, because it took it took our older kids longer to get to sleep. It took my baby longer to get to sleep. And I think for him, he really noticed being in different places, and maybe even the smells, and our older kids would slowly start getting it, like, oh, this is a new place, let's check it out, this is where we're sleeping tonight. But for my baby, I think being on the different mattresses, being on the bed, being sometimes that we had a little like travel crib, in the hotel room. So yeah, it was a struggle bus a lot of the time, honestly. I think the mental strength is what got me through, because my baby was up a lot, a lot, every night for basically 4 months. And we at some point just had to accept that this is the season we're in, and this is how it's going to be. How can we kind of accept it and just try to bear through it, basically, like there wasn't anything that we could really do besides just sometimes staying in a place longer, which really helped, but we also wanted to see different places and move along. In terms of sleep, like getting them to bed, when we were sleeping in one bedroom, Florian would always take the older kids out because they went to bed a bit later than the baby, and he would go and like read books with them. We brought these tiny little books with us. He would go read books with them either on the balcony or like in the hotel lobby, or if it was at an Airbnb, out in the living room, and I would put our baby to bed. And then once I came out and was like, okay, it's good, we can go in, we would go in with the other two and put them to bed. And basically they just had to learn to be quiet, which did not always happen, especially with our 4-year-old. But overall, that ended up working pretty well. And the only thing with that is that we would stay, in the room basically in the dark. So we were going to bed with our kids, and that was hard too because we didn't have much time to then after, say it was 8 o'clock and the kids are all asleep. Well, what do we do now? We either stay in the room or we know sometimes we could go out on the balcony or something, but you can't, where do you go? And even like the mosquitoes were so bad in some of the places, you're not really wanting to go sit outside in the open hotel lobby or just, outside the room when you're getting eaten alive by mosquitoes. So then it was like, okay, I guess we'll just go to bed. Plus we were usually tired as well. So it was like going to bed with them and waking up with them, which now I totally already miss that, but it was also hard at times. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have a bedtime routine with the kids or was that kind of the routine, like read a little book?
Yeah, I mean, shower and then reading books and then cuddling and scratching their backs and doing all that, basically the same as at home. So a lot of that stuff I find while traveling, you can keep those same routines as you do at home. And they had their stuffies, so they had some of those same things. And they really love just actually falling asleep near us and being with us more, because here at home, the older two share a bedroom. They have a bunk bed, and I'm so glad that they do, because I think that helped them going into it, because they already had slept beside each other and near each other. And then coming home, it's been really nice too, because they have each other in the bedroom. So yeah.
Oh
Mhm.
man.
Yeah.
And what about nap time? Tell us about nap time.
N-
Did you do that in the
So
carriers?
yeah, usually the first nap for the baby, because he's on 2 naps, we would go out exploring. We did have days where we stayed back, or I stayed back. Or if it had a pool, we had like a pool morning, and the baby got a good nap at the hotel. But then, oftentimes he wouldn't go down for a nap. And now we're staying back to try to put a baby down for a nap. And our other kids are just around and having to, wait outside or wait in the hotel lobby coloring or playing with their toy cars or something, instead of us just, no, he's going in the Ergo Baby or the backpack, and he's either going to fall asleep or not. And often, like most of the time, he would just have a carrier nap. And then what we would do is come back for the afternoon. So we'd always try to be back at the hotel or Airbnb around like 12:30, 1-ish, because our 2-year-old was still napping, or is still napping. So then both of the boys would go down for a nap. And that's when we had quiet time for our daughter, our oldest one, and just had some time to maybe, look at hotels for our next, part of the trip and that kind of stuff. And then in the afternoon, we'd either be by the pool or go out, and yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
that
So
was.
most of your sightseeing and outings were in a 2-3 hour chunk.
Yeah, I would say probably 4 or 5 hours, because our kids get up so early, so that we would just
Okay.
have breakfast and go basically by 8. Yeah. 4 or
Okay.
5 hours. Of course, we had days where we did like an island hopping tour or a big hike or something, so we were gone all day, and on those days they either napped in the carrier or didn't have. I mean, our baby always had a nap, but our 2-year-old then sometimes only maybe had a half-hour nap, a bus or a taxi ride or something, right? It's actually amazing how flexible they got, because like I said, those first couple weeks in the Philippines, we did have thoughts of like, what did we get ourselves into with just, it was such a big adjustment for them. And then already like 3 weeks in, like our kids, as soon as we got on a bus and we said, oh, it's time to sleep, or, you can have a nap. If they were tired, they were just falling asleep, especially our 2-year-old and our baby. But, our 2-year-old, he can sleep anywhere, sleep on tuk-tuks, on ferries, anywhere. And I think it just showed that our kids are so much more adaptable and like flexible than we might think. You have to get through the hard part to then make it to the part where they get what you're doing, and they kind of are, yeah, little backpackers, they sleep where they have to, whether it's waiting for a flight or if they're tired, they're going to sleep. And even our daughter really learned that, and she's she's very used to routine. So,
Mm,
yeah, we wanna keep that up now, which actually my husband said, "We're glad we're going into camping season because all
mhm.
sleeping in a tent again, like, we're so excited to just keep them kind of, yeah, flexible and easygoing with sleeping arrangements and those kind of things." I think that will help for any future trip too.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point that they are resilient and adaptable.
Mhm.
Think I think a really good point though is it takes time
Mhm.
because I think that often when families do a 1 week vacation, it is kind of miserable sleep for 1 week because
Oh,
we
yeah.
can't even get into that flow yet.
Yeah.
So holidays is really hard. And so I think we do
Mhm.
have to maybe like have that mental stamina or mentally
Mhm.
prepare for that.
Yes.
And that is the beauty in these slow travel trips that
Mhm.
your family and my family have taken and that
Yeah.
we've both seen firsthand is that they become more resilient and adaptable
Yeah.
to, going on the go and doing life with you. And I think that's a
Yeah.
great point about camping trips too, because I think always the first night on a
Oh,
camping trip, like
it's
I would
horrible.
say we
It's
all want to go home. I don't think
yes.
anyone has a good night unless they
Everyone's
sleep in the
exhausted.
tent
No.
all the time.
Yeah.
And so I think we have to think about that going into camping season also, just like go for at least 2 nights. But I
Yes.
mean, longer is better because they do
Every day
adapt
gets better.
and see
Every
that.
night gets better camping. Yeah. And I've said that numerous times because some of my friends who want to get into camping with kids are like, "Oh, we're just going to go for a night and try it out." And I'm like, but then you're not going to want to do it anymore because,
Yeah.
it's just usually the first night can be brutal, especially with
Mhm.
babies and crawling over you. And yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to
This
put in the time.
this leads me into my next question, which okay, so we're talking about how painful it is, how hard it is, and I wanna know, like, my friend the other day was like, "Danica, like, didn't you know it was gonna be that hard?" Like, because I
Yeah.
was kinda being like, "And this was insane, and this was really hard on my trip to Belize."
Mhm.
And she was like, "Why did you choose to do that?"
So why
Like,
did you
didn't
go?
you
Yeah.
know? And so for you, like, how did you handle that, and, like, was it worth it, I guess?
Absolutely. It was so worth it. And you were asking me about like the mental load and the burnout from booking stuff. I'm already like thinking about where do we go next? I was happy to come home, but absolutely worth it. And now just even like looking at back on photos and videos and talking to them about it, there's so many moments that were just special and so they're at such a cute age too that yeah, you just so many little moments throughout the days that they were magical, and they were so special and funny and like even having little like inside jokes or things that happen that really only us five know or I mean my husband and I can kind of talk about and they remember so many things too that yeah, that were just awesome about the trip. So definitely worth it, but you do need to go into it with, I would say, like lower your expectations and yeah, it might not always like not every day is going to be smooth. If you're traveling for that long, not every day is going to be smooth, but then you have little moments even within those hard days. And for me, I think back to like a lot of those long travel days where we were on a sleeper bus and you're on that bus for 7 hours, up a windy road or something. Not really fun for anyone, but then, like, my two-year-old would love to come on the bunk with me and just look out the window at cars going, like, by, and he just wanted to talk to me and, like, call out a truck, a bus, and just those little moments that you did really get to connect with them, and those are the things I think I'll remember the most too, more than a temple or, something else that we saw, and we saw so much, right? So,
Mhm.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
such a beautiful way to get to know your kids.
Yes. Yeah, and also what we really realized is the whole idea, I don't know if you've heard about this, like the family nervous system that, you have as a whole family, like one nervous system, and the kids will feel when you're stressed and they will feel when you're overwhelmed. And so on this trip, Florian and I really had to work on that too. And if we had hard moments or if somebody had a meltdown, like, how does it affect everyone else? And of course, we're the parents. So how do we kind of navigate situations and calmly? And I have stories, but we had things happen that just, like kind of derailed what was happening in the moment. And we had to quickly problem solve and all of these things and figure out how to, yeah, deal with the kids and just, yeah, you really grow through that. Like when things happen that that aren't going smoothly, and then you get through it as a team and as a like husband wife team, but then also with your kids, you end up realizing how much you can do with your kids and how resilient like everyone was, and that's really beautiful and like bonds you together in a way that I think being home, it's not quite the same as
Mhm.
experiencing some of those things.
That's
Yeah.
so true.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't heard it called the family nervous system. I feel like I've felt that, but I haven't
Yeah.
actually, heard that term before, but
Mhm.
that's just fascinating to me because I do feel like, yeah, you sometimes just have to stay calm for your children, and
Yeah.
some of them will latch more on to, when you're stressed or anxious or when
Uh-huh.
something's wrong. Like, one of my children kinda always, like, notices, like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
did I say that out loud?" Like, that's not as big of an issue as actually
Yeah.
that tension that you might be feeling right now, and, like,
Yes.
"Let me explain this to you."
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
Yes,
it's
being
so
in
true.
tune, like you become so much more in tune with your kids and even your partner, because you kind of have to be. You're spending 24/7 together. But what you said about your kids too, like my 2-year-old is just so easygoing, like something doesn't happen, oh, whatever, that's okay. My firstborn, and I mean this might be a bit of a firstborn thing, is just
Mhm.
so much more like takes things so seriously and gets so caught up in it, and he's like, why isn't it like this? And so, she needed a lot more, I would say, patience and just calm, parents than our boy, who was just like, "Oh, well, I guess we missed that bus. Like, I'll just keep playing with my car toys." And it's just, yeah, it's interesting how each child does need something different, and traveling, you really realize that, and it really shows more, and you need to, try to and attempt to provide what each kid needs on a trip like that too.
Mhm.
Like, I do think, like, my daughter would've maybe thrived more on longer stays in each place, whereas our 2-year-old was totally okay with it, and he can
Mm.
fall asleep like this, right? So, again, it's a give and take too, and there's things we would maybe do differently on a next trip, but yeah, we don't regret any of it, so
That's so
yeah.
good. That's so good looking back and seeing that. And I think that's the beauty of once again, the long trip, and you could
Mhm.
cater it
Yeah,
as your family needed. Because
yeah.
I remember you posting you were gonna go to a 5th country and then
Mhm.
you decided not to.
Yes. Yeah, we had decided to just it wasn't really enough time to go to Laos,
Okay.
and we didn't wanna rush through that country, and then we just decided we'll just finish off our time in Vietnam and stay in places longer, and so that
Mhm.
allowed for more down days too, and at this point, it wasn't just our kids that needed those down days, like, we needed those down days as parents to just, yeah, not have to navigate something, not have to figure out, where to go eat or get a taxi. Like, we had some days where then we just stayed at the hotel and had a pool morning and maybe went out for dinner, Not many of those days where we didn't do a single activity, but just slower days. Yeah. Or we could
Mhm.
spread the activities in one place. We could spread them out over 5 days instead of 3.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wanna hear I have some more questions about country specifics, and
Okay.
so I wanna know which country felt the easiest or the most family friendly
Okay.
for you guys.
Uh, I wrote down 2 countries for this. I was going to say Thailand is such a great, I think, point for families also who maybe haven't traveled to these kind of countries that are a bit harder to navigate. Thailand was so family friendly, and we found easy to get around, and also had amenities for kids. Like, we stayed at some great hotels that had travel cribs available and high chairs, because honestly there were not many high chairs in most of the countries we visited. And our baby, 8 months, he had just started solids at home. And then we go on this 4 month trip and he was like eating on our lap. We're trying to feed him rice and egg and just some of these things. But it was, he's definitely a bit slower to pick up on the, eating because it was just so hard to find high chairs. So I would say Thailand is a great first country. Also, the food is so amazing and there's lots of different options for pickier eaters or just kids, I guess, in general. And then I also picked the Philippines because the language there is English. So that made things a lot easier, similar to Belize. Like it just felt like you didn't have that language barrier. And they're very family oriented too and love kids. So very very helpful. Of course, the food there, not as much. So maybe if you have picky eaters, like don't go to the Philippines because it's harder to find different things maybe that you need. And we didn't have that issue because our kids just eat everything.
That's so good.
Yeah, you're lucky with that. Yeah.
Which country was the most affordable?
The most affordable was Vietnam and then Cambodia. And Vietnam, yeah, the food and everything really. The accommodation in Vietnam was really affordable. Again, the Philippines was affordable, but because of all these flights and ferries that you are bound to take, if you just go to the Philippines and pick 2 places and stay for 2 weeks each, totally different than us who went to, 5 different islands and had to take ferries or planes in between them. So affordable depending on how you travel in the Philippines, but I would say Vietnam was the best, like bang for your buck.
If your family only had to visit one of these countries again, where would you choose?
We would choose Thailand because we only spent 3 weeks in Thailand and we just did the north. And so we always thought we were going to loop back and end up and do the south. So we actually do need to go and want to go back to Thailand and do the south and do the islands because I know my kids would love that and we would too with all the swimming. Yeah. So.
And what were the top places that your kids loved? Maybe not even country-wise, but just like even a sightseeing spot that they loved.
The hotel pools.
Yes, okay.
Always book
You're
a
like,
hotel with a pool or an Airbnb. That's like non-negotiable with kids, I think. No, but I definitely places with a beach, like in the Philippines, beaches, they just love playing in the sand. And, we did buy some sand toys and that kind of thing. So the beach, we did spend a whole week on an island off of Cambodia on Korong Island. And that was a whole week of just like a beach, basically vacation. And we stayed in a hotel that had breakfast there and like a restaurant. So often we didn't even go into like the town. We just had beach days every day. And it was such a great reset week and the kids loved that. And then anything, because we're very, outdoorsy and they do love hiking and being outside, hiking to waterfalls. We did quite a few hikes with waterfalls and just kind of trekking and hiking adventures they really enjoyed.
That's
more
so
than
good.
cities, but we're also just
Okay.
not city people, right? So, I mean, other families might love going to cities and going to indoor playgrounds. Like, it just depends what kind of family you are and what you like to do together.
Good.
Yeah.
As we close out, I'm going to ask you the last 3 final questions that I
Okay.
ask everyone.
Okay.
And usually I say, like, would you share a favorite moment with your kids outside? But maybe do you have a favorite moment from this trip with your kids?
Yeah, I thought about this one, and I think a favorite moment with our kids and just as a family was when in Vietnam, we did trekking in Sapa, and this is where all the rice terraces are, and it wasn't like rice growing season, so they weren't super green, but we did a 2-day, 1-night trekking, and so we went with a group. We booked it through Get Your Guide, and we were the only ones with kids. And first, they wanted to put us just in a separate group with like one guide to go because I think they just looked at us and were like, you guys are not going to keep up. Like, are you crazy? You have 3 kids. Like, what are you doing? You have one little day pack with you. And then we asked, we're like, we would like to go with the group. And the group was, all these backpackers, couples, singles. And so then we said, well, ask everyone else if they're okay with us coming. And then, of course, the people didn't care and said yes. So we went all as a group. And in the end, I know that really helped our kids and us to keep up. But we ended up, and our 4-year-old hiked 12 kilometers the one day, 10 kilometers the next day. And we were just blown away by like her capability. And I think the most we'd done with her was 8 kilometers. And she just loved it. And it was just so amazing to see. And even my 2-year-old, we did carry him for half of it. And obviously we carried the baby, but doing that together, and it was so beautiful, like the landscape and everything, just doing something like that we love together and showing our kids that we can do it and enjoy it. And we stayed at a homestay, like overlooking all these rice terraces. I think just seeing how proud our kids were. And of course, they got an ice cream after both hikes, both days, and just how proud they were of themselves. I think we'll never forget that adventure, that trip. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. I want to book tickets to Vietnam.
Yeah. Go trekking in Vietnam with your kids, especially if you already, if you love hiking. But it was just such a, I didn't go on social media for 2 days. I didn't text anyone. I didn't, it was just us and out there, of course, with this bigger group. And of course, everyone was blown away and commenting and complimenting our kids. And they just, we just felt like we were this adventure family. It was so fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it's okay, it would be a treat to just do our family and a guide, but also when you're traveling with just your family, it's so fun to meet those other people, and they love talking to you with kids.
And
it's
even
just
for us
fun.
adults talking to other adults sometimes, we met a couple Dutch girls who were on that group, and just having some conversations with other people, because often it's you and your partner. You can be texting somebody from back home or but at the end of the day, you are the only two who are there and managing everything. And yeah.
That's a big difference in backpacking with kids that I've found.
Yes.
Yep.
And I
For
miss,
traveling.
and we didn't stay in any hostels. We did a couple times go check out a hostel that had a restaurant and a rooftop just for the dinner and the views. But you go into those hostels and you're like, oh, you suddenly kind of feel old. And Florian was like, we are old. And I'm like, I still think I'm 20 backpacking, staying in hostels. We have 3 little kids in tow and, everyone's looking at us, but we just had to sometimes feel like we were still living that backpacker life. Yeah.
That's so true. What's your favorite piece of outdoor or travel gear as a mom?
I would have to say that the backpack carrier, we have the Osprey one, but there's Deuter ones and different ones too. Just you can go anywhere with that.
So good. Okay, Sandy, where can we follow along and see all your beautiful pictures from your trip and where you're going to travel next?
Dreaming about that already. So my Instagram account is called Grobs on the Go, and you can check us out on there. I did recently just share a budget tracker form, and so it's a spreadsheet that we use to track all our different costs from the trip, and I have that on my link in bio. You can check it out there if somebody wants to figure out how they can track all of their finances while traveling and just kind of have it in a spreadsheet, if that's your style.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Sandy. That was so inspiring and beautiful
Awesome.
to hear, and really impressive that you've done that with an 8-month, a 2-year-old, and a 4-year-old.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
impressive.
thank you. Sometimes I'm like, did that really happen? And how did we pull it off? And we did have comments from family and just friends being like, are you crazy? Are you actually doing this? And when we got there, we were like, oh, maybe they were right. And we did question our sanity sometimes. But in the end, it's we did it. And now I'm so glad we did. And it's money that we will never regret spending. So if I have one piece of advice for people is to just go for it. Don't wait till they're older, till they're not, they're sleeping through the night or potty trained or all those things, because you can make such incredible memories when they're little too. Just go for it. Yeah. make it
Totally.
happen. It can be 2 weeks or 2 months.
It's so good. My husband says, like, in all these countries, there's these little kids, all these ages also. And if they
Yes.
can live there and make it work,
Mhm.
we can too.
Well, and that's what I always say, because some of my friends, who don't travel like this or haven't traveled really at all, they're like, aren't you worried about safety and this and that? And I'm like, I'm going to countries. If there's kids there, like for me, that means I can take my kids there. Like there will be food there will be diapers there. Of course, we picked Southeast Asia because it is very safe in those countries. But overall, it's like you can take your kids nearly anywhere in the world and yeah, make it work, I think. Yeah.
So good. Thank you for chatting today, Sandy.
Thank you for having me.
If you enjoyed this episode, would you please take a moment to leave a rating and a review? It honestly really helps the podcast grow to more people so that they can find it. And it's a free way that you can love on me. It honestly means more than you know. And I would just be so grateful if you could take a moment to do this so that more outdoor mothers could find the podcast. Don't forget, everything that we mentioned is in the show notes, from gear recommendations to trail recommendations to where to travel. So check that out, and we will be chatting so soon. We drop an episode every first and third Tuesday of the month.